This episode is brought to you by Podbean, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting. Stay tuned to hear how you can get your first month of Podbean for free. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Committed Critics, a pop culture podcast where we're not only committed to our opinions, but also each other. Aww. I'm Kevin Lau.
I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Zach Wright. How you guys doing today?
Doing great on Valentine's Day of all days.
Woo! The day of love. Ooh.
Ooh. It's too bad that we don't have that.
I mean, I do, but...
Wait. What am I saying? We have love for the prequels. That's what today's episode is about.
No.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait. Oh, yes.
One of us has genuine love for the prequels. The rest of us are doing our best. Because today we want to talk about the virtues of the prequels, the parts of the prequels that are actually genuinely good.
Yes.
I would have to say. Starting with, wait, hold on. Why am I explaining this? Ryan,
Let's let our resident prequel lover take over.
And channeling the force, the prequel force. So the prequels, a lot of people don't like it for some reason. I don't understand why. The prequels are phenomenal, but, people say they suck. So we're going to try and, talk about what elements of the prequels are actually good. So, guys, I know you guys are kind of iffy on the prequels, but what do you think about the prequels are actually good?
Kevin, I'll let you start.
So one thing I really like about the prequels is the world building. George Lucas obviously has this expansive, rich, well thought out world of Star Wars that we see, kind of get hints of in episode 4. Then kind of like it gets expanded better through better direction and writing in episodes 5 and 6. Mm-hmm. And then this prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3. This is George Lucas going all out. He's like, I'm going to include everything. Whether or not it works, it's a topic for another episode, which we already did before.
Discretion.
Mm-hmm.
He made his own language.
So did J.R.R. Tolkien, not J.J. Abrams. Oof. Not that guy.
Not that guy.
But yeah, the world building is so rich. There's, every planet feels like an actual planet. You can really see the religion, how religion is shaped through the course of these movies.
Yeah.
And how it affects the characters around it as well, and how the characters interact with one another, and how those relationships with the outside world, develop throughout the series into the point of Anakin's turn. Spoiler alert. But George Lucas, but whether or not he's a good writer / director is up to you. Personally, I think nah. But the world building, on point.
Yeah, and I can agree with that, Kevin. I agree. The world building is rich, is fleshed out. People, a bunch of different authors, before, after the prequels came out, they played in that landscape and were able to create their own stories with, different authors, video games, different forms of media and mediums of media. Wow, that's a lot of media right there. Sorry. A lot of forms of different medias. Jesus Christ, sorry.
Did you learn nothing in 493?
I know, right? But for me, the overall idea and the through line of the prequels is more concrete. My friend Malia, she gave me this point. And I was actually that's a very solid point. So in the originals, different story beats were improvised. So Leia being Luke's sister wasn't thought of until Return of the Jedi's when it came about. Whereas and stuff in the sequels, obviously Rey being a nobody or Palpatine, that went back and forth, for example. However, the prequels had a more solid vision and a solid through line. So George Lucas had all these ideas, he was able to put it all together and have it make sense in the context around what she was building in these 3 movies. However, again, you be the judge of if it was executed well or poorly. But yeah, so overall, the story beats and the ideas in the prequels is more concrete and was more there than, say, in the originals and the sequels.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say, though, more on it's kind of on world building as well. It would be nice if each planet had more than one city or town.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go, I mean, they kind of do like Tatooine. They do explain that there's more
There's
cities.
3 spaceports in Tatooine.
There's 3 space. I mean, like when you think there are different places, and we just don't see them because they went to one.
They're just
location.
not important to the story.
Yeah, they're not important to the story. But there's a whole planet like Bespin. It's a whole cloud planet. Why the hell are we just on Cloud City?
Well, I think that's the only city in Bespin, but like what you're saying, like Coruscant is one big city. There you go. That's how it's written. That's how they can stay in one city.
Man, how do you survive? Well, I mean, it's aliens, so never mind. It's like I was going to say, how do you survive on a planet that only has one climate? It's like, well, you're an alien. You're born there. You're genetically through genetics and evolution, you are bred to survive that climate. So whatever.
Well, Coruscant is kind of like I guess technically kind of New York.
It's the New York of the
New York / Washington D.C. because it's like the capital of the galaxy, but it's also like the melting pot because that's where everyone is just at.
Yeah, but
and Tatooine is like the poor man's Coruscant.
But anywho,
so far
Ryan,
away.
What do you think is good about the prequels? Since we didn't let you have your limelight last time.
Mine's is kind of a combination of you guys' 2 things because I do like the world building. I like the plot because the plot is Anakin. I like Anakin. He's probably my favorite character in all Star Wars, only because I like his rise and fall. He starts off as a little kid, and you watch him become one of the most evil men in the galaxy. And it's just interesting to see how he gets from that point to the other point. I started with the prequel. I started with Phantom Menace. That was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw. And, I mean, for me, that's the beginning of Star Wars, both chronologically, because, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right.
And it's also the beginning of Star Wars for me personally. And it was more diverse and expansive and jaw-dropping than watching the originals. Because I did watch A New Hope, like, almost, not right after, but, like, it was the next one I saw. It was kind of jarring to see, here's Phantom Menace, which has pod racing and Duel of the Fates and everything else, and then we go to A New Hope where it's like, yeah, we have lightsaber battle where they poke each other with the sticks, and I mean, the Death Star run is a great thing, but like it's mostly just seeing the inside of the cockpits and seeing these guys talk and stuff occasionally explode. I was like, oh, well, there's not a lot going on there. And then also episode 3, if you haven't heard me talk about it at all in this podcast, which I've talked about it a lot, is my favorite of all Star Wars movies. Order 66, probably one of the darkest moments of Star Wars. I enjoy it. I enjoy playing in Battlefront 2 because I got to just shoot Jedi and hopefully not get sliced down by the Jedi that just dropped out the damn ceiling.
I feel like
it was like Nam. it was like Vietnam with the Jedi dropping from the ceiling. It was like, oh my god,
they're in the trees. They're in the trees. But it was that and Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight on the entire last 2 fights of episode 3 with Anakin versus Obi-Wan and Yoda versus the Palpatine, and watching Obi-Wan leave Anakin on Mustafar burning alive, that brought a tear to my eye. That made young Ryan and still current Ryan cry.
I mean, I agree. I think the Revenge of the Sith is the best prequel movie, and I think I was talking to someone like years ago about like Revenge of the Sith, where it's like, yeah, I don't really care about the prequels, but Revenge of the Sith is a good movie, and they kind of looked at me like, no, it's not, you're wrong. And then later on, they rewatched Revenge of the Sith. They're like, actually, you're right. Revenge of the Sith is pretty good.
It's fun.
Yeah, good, solid movie.
It's the only Star Wars movie that's PG-13 until the sequels.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like all of them were PG. I mean, technically, like I guess PG was different back in the 80s, but like
that's also true.
PG-13 was not a thing until the 90s.
Yeah, like in episode 1 and episode 2, both are PG. Episode 3, PG-13 because the Jedi gets slaughtered and Anakin gets burnt alive.
I love how Jedi getting slaughtered what you went to, not Anakin literally being burned alive.
That was the second point. But like you watch, I mean, look, Ayla Secura got mowed down. They lit up her corpse. She was already dead, and they still kept shooting her.
The more you know.
Kevin, what's another thing you like about the prequels?
I really love the visual effects. Like they're so over the top and kind of goofy and cartoony at the same time, but they honestly still look pretty incredible to this day. Like, sure, you can argue like the dance of
Mhm.
Duel of the Fates looks kind of corny and, like I said, cartoony. But I feel like that's the vibe that George Lucas was going for. Like, it's all just kind of cartoony, and but like it doesn't look fake in the
Right.
sense of like bad CGI. Like obviously there was limitations to its time, but still, like it's really good compared to everything else that kind of came out like 10 years later.
Right. Yeah.
uh
You
up
mean
until
Kylo and Rey?
Planet of the Apes. But yeah, it's it's like obviously there's like some eyeline issues here and there. It's just kind of but like it's really good still, and I really enjoy the visual effects
Yeah.
and the CGI. It's just man, I forgot where I was gonna go with this point, but it's good. CGI good.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. Like, I personally like practical effects better and actually kind of seeing something that looks tangible and real. But the
Right.
CGI in the prequels, like, it looks very like, oh, it could be tangible if you didn't know it was a blue screen behind them, for example. The one thing
Mhm.
that I also like about the prequels is all the lightsaber duels, and the colorful lightsabers go whoom, is what I wrote in the notes. Here. Like
Burm.
like the arena scene in Attack of the Clones. I love seeing all the Jedi fight. Granted, they get destroyed by a bunch of battle droids, which is kind of like okay, whatever. But like, it was cool seeing all those lightsabers, all those colors flying around for me as a kid. And I started to realize that like, oh man, these lightsaber duels are really like artistic. It's like a dance, like we said earlier. And that's a
Mhm.
stark contrast from the originals where it's like, oh, like they're surviving. Like Luke is the first Jedi in so many years, and he just kind of like has to like he's struggling to like figure out how to sword fight. Like that makes sense. Whereas the Jedi are all
Mhm.
trained here. I'm also going to add real quick. One other thing I like about the prequels is all the cool content and other different forms of media that came out from it. Like all the video games, all of the like Lego sets, all the toys, all the cool like
The books.
sure, even the books. I'll give you the books, Ryan. Like all the video games that I remember playing on like the original Xbox, like Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Star Wars Obi-Wan, all these different like Battlefront. Yeah, all of them were so much fun. Republic Commando, that was another good one.
Ooh, yes.
All this other content that came out of the prequel era was really good. Even like the Clone Wars, like and the 2002 animated Clone Wars 2D version, like all of it was really good, and I enjoyed it as a kid. So yeah, Mr. Davis.
Y'all are gonna hate me for this, but sorry. My point that I like the prequels is the relationships. I know this is a very controversial topic with a lot of people.
Now, depends on where you go with this, Ryan. Depends on where you go with this.
The first one of my notes is the relationship between Anakin and Padme.
Well, he went the wrong way.
He went the wrong way. He took hard right. He should have went left.
Look, young Ryan had no problem with Anakin and Padme. I thought it was a lovely story. That was my first. Look, my two elements of romance as a child was either Anakin and Padme or Peter Parker and Mary Jane in the Spider-Man Sam Raimi trilogy. And after seeing Peter slap Mary Jane across the face.
Listen, both of these are equally bad. I'm not gonna lie to you here.
I was kind of
Look,
okay.
I understand that Anakin and Padme needed to happen, both plot-wise and story-wise. It's just the execution was awful.
The execution could have been better. I will say this: the scenes on Naboo were not the best, but I still like I can feel it. I was like, they got to Geonosis. I was like, yeah, I feel this. This is a
Look.
nice
I didn't have a problem with episode 1. My problem was with episode 2.
No, I get it. Episode 2, all the stuff on Naboo, it was a little bit weird.
I can buy the
same
stuff
time,
on
I'm
Naboo like until like the dinner scene, and I'm just kind of like, ooh, this is weird. This got weird really quick.
Here's the thing: it goes Shakespearean in the dinner scene.
The dinner scene gets really Shakespearean.
It started off very much like this is a teen romance, and then it went Shakespearean. When I was like, you're living a lie, but yeah, it is what it is. I enjoyed it as a child, and I was like, this is great. I don't know, but to go on off of that, Anakin Obi-Wan.
There we go.
Significantly better. Yeah. Yes, that's the left I should have taken. Whatever, but Anakin Obi-Wan. I like the father-son relationship that the two of them have. The entire chase scene in Episode 2. Is probably one of the most fun moments of Star Wars I see because it just cracks me up just to watch Obi-Wan's like I hate flying and Anakin's over here bobbing and weaving, jumping off of cars and everything. And Obi-Wan's just like, this guy is going to be the death of me, which he was. But and then also Anakin and Palpatine, Anakin's mother. Anakin and Palpatine is like the opposite of Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's still a father-son relationship, but obviously Palpatine's evil and more manipulative.
Right.
So, he's turning Anakin, to his more darker impulses.
To piggyback off that, Ryan, real quick, like, I agree. I like how Anakin and Obi-Wan start off as like a father-son dynamic, and then they turn into brothers. And then that father void is filled by Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. Like, that makes sense.
And that's problematic.
Yeah.
And that's problematic for Anakin because, he starts to look up to Palpatine where he looks at Obi-Wan as an equal. Yeah. And
he never knew his father.
Well, he had no father. He was born. He's a
virgin birth.
Virgin baby. But and then Qui-Gon also Anakin. I mean, that was his original father. Then it turned to Obi-Wan, and then it was Palpatine, and then Anakin's mom. That scene where he holds his mom in his hands and she dies, and he starts to kill the men, the women, and the children.
I love how all the problems in all of Star Wars all stem from daddy issues.
Oh yeah, that's. I wonder what it says about George Lucas.
I mean, that's another point. Jango and Boba, daddy issues. Mace Windu kind of took Jango's dad's head. Yeah.
When you see it fly out of the shadow.
As a child, I was like, "What the hell was that?"
I love George Lucas's infatuation with disembodied heads.
Yeah, he does it with Count Dooku in Episode 3.
He does.
Rolls the head off, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. But
George Lucas just really wants to make a horror movie where everyone just gets beheaded.
They're like, George, do we need to see the head roll? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. So it doesn't roll, and everyone's like,
oh
what?
Yeah.
Exactly. He likes heads rolling and and limbs just getting chopped off because he does a lot of limb chopping throughout this entire all 6 movies.
I feel that it kind of comes with like the idea of lightsabers.
Yeah, but like limb chopping is kind of like symbolic, like, oh, you lose your hand, like that can mean something, yada yada. But like a head is just another way of dying.
I mean, look, you got these like glowing swords that can cut through anything. And what are you gonna aim for? The body? No, you go for the head. It's much easier to animate a head coming off than it is a whole body getting chopped in half.
That is definitely true.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
You're
actually,
right. Yeah, you're right.
It's like I never. Come to think of it, I don't really remember anyone getting stabbed with a lightsaber until like episode 7.
Episode 1.
Episode 1.
Literally,
really? Someone gets. Oh, he does get stabbed.
Literally,
all right,
Qui-Gon
never mind.
gets impaled in the most saddest way
I guess
ever.
I had to give up my Star Wars fan card.
No,
here, Zach, you can have it.
You get to keep that, Kevin. You referenced Attack of the Clones earlier today, my friend. You think you're out? You're in forever. You're in for life.
No, I don't want to be here. No, let's go to the break. Starting a podcast? Try a Podbean Unlimited hosting plan. It's what we use here at Committed Critics, giving us the opportunity to have our show on Pandora, iHeartRadio, and even Spotify. You can get your first month of unlimited hosting for free on us by going to podbean.com/committedcrits, just like our Twitter, or by clicking the link in the description. Podbean, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting.
So we're back from break, and now we get to the part of the story of the episode where instead of slamming the prequels with a sledgehammer, Zach and Kevin are going to hit it with a rubber mallet, because now we're going to talk about one element about the prequels that you hate, dislike, you think it could have been done better.
Kevin,
Look, Ryan, I'm going to tell you right now that with a rubber mallet, you can still give blunt force trauma.
You can still definitely kill someone. It'll take a lot longer.
I'm not sure about longer. Well, yeah, it was technically longer, like, difference between 1 second and 10 seconds. But,
a squeaky mallet, I don't know. One of those little air balloon mallets that they have.
The toddler mallet. That's, I guess, yeah. But racism. That's it. That's the podcast. Also, Anakin's predatory vibes in Attack of the Clones. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Look,
listen,
the only time I notice it.
Listen, I'm not saying if I was Padme, I would be scared, but I definitely would have called the cops after he's like, not just the women, but the women and the
But
children
the problem
too.
is that but the Jedi are the cops. Whoa.
Yeah,
Also, the Jedi are like mass murderers as well. I don't know what you're talking about.
that's true.
Well, I mean, there's this whole thing about like what Star Wars, the prequels really show what happens when you can mix the church and the state together, and all that stuff. But that's a whole other
I was
topic.
about to say, like, the Jedi kidnap children. They kidnap newborn babies.
The Jedis were never the good guys. All right, there you go. Sorry if I blew someone's mind.
The Skywalkers were
saying
the
that.
good guys. Ha ha ha. Rise of Skywalker. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Oh no. But yeah, racism. That's the podcast.
Why don't you elaborate a little more on that one, Kevin?
Yeah, because otherwise I'm going to be over here like, wow, he just really hates Gungans.
Okay, so it's just more of the problem of like applying stereotypes from actual races on Earth in our world to into alien races, like Watto being the stereotypical Jewish person, the aliens in the beginning of episode 1 that are like stereotypically have a strong Chinese accent, and like not only but also because it's not just the accent thing, it's also them being like owners of an enterprise.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like plays into like if you guys know the cyberpunk aesthetic, like Japanese owning all the corporations, all that stuff. But it's just really, it just doesn't age well. You can say Jar Jar has some elements of being stereotypically black. I wouldn't say it's fully there, but like there's definitely there's really some moments and some things he says and how he says it's like maybe it's a little too much. But when you're a kid you don't really notice it for the most part, but like as you grow up you look back like didn't age well, but hey, it's a product of its time.
Yeah, definitely a product of its time for sure. For me, like one of the things like I wish like the prequels could have done better was showing instead of telling. Like Anakin and Obi-Wan always like, oh, remember how we always like would go on these crazy adventures? Like, oh, Anakin, you saved my butt so many times. I wish you would have seen those times in this prequel era. Yeah, we get them in like in the Clone Wars, which is after the fact. I get that, and I guess I honestly wish that the content of the Clone Wars would have been the prequels, so you can set up like the 3 acts or Revenge of the Sith, and you can take each of those acts and make it its own film. Episode 1 could have been like Anakin and Obi-Wan's crazy adventures, and then you see Anakin's fall in episode 2, and then you see the problem like Anakin versus Obi-Wan in the 3rd movie. Like that's what it's all about, stuff like that. Think about it, Ryan. A whole movie dedicated to Anakin and Obi-Wan just fighting one another.
No, because I need to, no.
Anywho.
I don't want to see a whole movie of it. I just want to see like it'd be if it was the last half, if it was the second half, sure.
Yeah, just a joke.
Whole movie.
But like,
I get it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, Zach. You know what? I will diss the Clone Wars because they did not show that business on Kato Neomodia. That did not count.
Actually, they were going to. It just didn't get animated.
So that's what happened. Yes, okay. They should have actually kept count of all the rescues Anakin did so they could make that canon. But, yeah, for Zach, you got on me about this earlier, but the Mystery Master Sifo-Dyas, no one knows what Master Sifo-Dyas is unless you're a true Star Wars fan, so I don't even think I should just...
Well, guess I'm not a true Star Wars fan. Here's Zach, take my card.
Kevin, no, you're in, buddy. You're in for life.
Kevin, you're in. You don't get to escape this.
You're in for
We're
life.
chaining you down.
But Ryan just called it. He said I'm not a true Star Wars fan because I have no idea who Master Sifo-Dyas is.
It was a whole thing in Attack of the Clones.
Exactly, he's gonna explain it to you.
The clone army got developed because of Master Sifo-Dyas, who was working with Count Dooku, and yeah, it's a whole thing. They cleared up in the Clone Wars series. Like the Clone Wars series clears up a lot of things that were left kind of like open in episode 2,
yeah,
and then also in a little bit in episode 3 because hey, what happened to Ahsoka after the Clone Wars?
Basically, Master Sifo-Dyas was the one who put in the order for the clone troopers. So there you go, Kevin. Now you know who Sifo-Dyas is, and you can keep your card.
No.
My favorite little factoid about Sifo-Dyas is that it was originally going to spell out to like be like an anagram for Sidious.
That would make more sense.
I think the Y, it was like Sidious or something like that, just spelled out a different way, and no one's like, "Oh, I wonder who that is."
Everyone's like, all Star Wars fans like, oh.
Yeah.
Nah.
Sorry, continue, Ryan.
No, the only other thing I didn't like, looking back at it, like as a kid, I did not like the political stuff because it was heavy in episode 1 and some in episode 2, and I was like, I don't like this stuff because politics means nothing to me.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I'm like, man, Star Wars politics make a lot more sense than American politics. But, you know, that's just me.
I was actually also really well when I rewatched the films recently. I was really interested in the political stuff of the prequels because you know since it's all like a world building adventure, like the politics is the most interesting thing you could do with world building. I mean, I'm just really into that stuff. But like you know, it does go over head for a kid, and these films are targeted for children. George Lucas said so himself. So it's kind of like he kind of quite didn't understand his audience. But you know, that's just George Lucas for you.
It just doesn't help that Phantom Menace, there's literally 20 minutes of just 20, 30 minutes of political stuff and Anakin getting roasted by Samuel L. Jackson.
I do love the politics part where Mace Windu and Yoda get a transmission from Obi-Wan saying, hey, I need help when he gets attacked. And they're like, well, let's go watch this council meeting for 30 minutes and then we'll go save Obi-Wan.
Well, they had to get political permission.
They didn't even chime in on the call. They didn't even chime in on the call. They just sat there and watched Jar Jar give Palpatine the power.
They also told Anakin and Padme to stand by, but I was like, yeah, you're telling Anakin.
Right,
Anakin's got to stand by.
But speaking of Jar Jar's cool, right?
I mean, I loved him in Lego Star Wars. Like you said, Kevin, playing into those racial stereotypes. He was the best high jumper in the Lego game.
He can get those hoops.
He can get those extra studs too high up for the Jedi to get.
Hey, I like Jar Jar. Jar Jar's a fun character.
And Ryan, the memes are gold.
The memes are phenomenal.
What about the droid attacking the Wookiees?
Oh God. Hello there.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
What was it like big booms or something?
I mean, Zach, that podcast you showed me where they have the guy come out in the Watto costume. I mean, that's just. I know we talked about Watto being a horrible character, but
I love Kind of Funny. Oh my God.
The
size of a pumpkin. I'll send it to you, Kevin.
All right. So, what do you wish the prequels had without removing anything that it currently has? Like, what is something you would want to add in there? For me, I would want a story. But
no, Kevin, we can't shit on it today.
I know. I just do wish that there was more of an emotionally charged story to what's currently there, because a lot of it's very plot based and plot driven, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of like not what I'm into.
Yeah.
But also, I like to see how Jar Jar ended. You know, he handed everything to the Emperor, then he just kind of disappeared. So, you know, what happened to him? How does he feel about things?
Kevin, do you really think there's not a comic or a book about that?
There is.
I need to read it. I need to know the fall of Jar Jar.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure he has PTSD or something like that. he gets depressed. He gets very depressed.
I believe he becomes like a smuggler of some sort. I don't know.
I think he becomes.
Oh.
Yeah, something like that. He becomes very depressed because, you know, Padme.
Is this this comic like a really like
the only person
a redemption of Jar Jar?
Padme's dead and Anakin is qualified as dead. And Obi-Wan is gone. So he lost the only 3 friends he had. Like,
yes.
I've been on the run for 6 months.
Oh my God. Ryan, what do you want to add to the prequels?
I kind of want more army battles. Cause I mean, like we got in Clone Wars, and the opening for Episode 3 is probably still one of my most favorite like scenes ever. Cause like just the war drums and the ships flying and everything blowing up and over Coruscant air, it's beautiful. That's going back to that whole CGI looked good. That was probably the pinnacle of Star Wars CGI for me. But that and more buddy cop time with Anakin and Obi-Wan, because I really wish we had seen a lot more of Anakin and Obi-Wan just dicking around, being like the best but the worst Jedi pair ever. Like,
yeah, I agree with
it's
you.
Just
yeah.
fun.
Anything else, Ryan?
Maybe more just Anakin and Padme. just a little bit more.
Why Padme? Why Padme?
Natalie Portman was cool.
Yeah, uh-huh.
She was pretty cool.
She was pretty cool. Anywho, if we're doing bad romance, let's just throw in a Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme love triangle. You want to see more Natalie Portman, Ryan? There you go. You can see her making out with 2 different dudes. There you go, Ryan.
Whoa.
No. That is the one thing I hate that everyone's like, Obi-Wan and Padme. I'm like, no, that is disgusting. Obi-Wan has a romance. He has Satine.
Right, but that was after the fact. Now it could definitely be like, oh, that's why Anakin and Obi-Wan split up. It was over a girl.
Oh, God. No, I don't want... That's every other teen drama movie.
Well,
Man, happens to the best of us. Well, maybe not us, but it happens to some people.
Here's the thing.
Has to, right? It's relatable. That's why they put it everywhere.
If you're gonna add stuff like that, add Ahsoka just in the background. Make it instead. You know how George Lucas was doing that to the originals? Just put Ahsoka in the background of episodes.
She's not talking to anyone. She just sitting there, just like waving in the background.
Don't give George Lucas ideas. He'll just add her in post.
That's what I'm saying. Let's do that. Let's add all these Clone Wars characters in post. Let's add Rex. Let's add Cody. Let's just add them all.
Let's add a stormtrooper riding on a giant lizard in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my god.
Star Wars, the prequels. What a franchise.
Kevin, this is the last time
portion of the franchise.
Kevin, this is the last time I talk about Star Wars for a while. Are you happy?
I am so happy that I never have to talk about Star Wars ever.
The key word is a while.
A while.
No.
Yes.
No.
Because
animation.
No.
Because
Clone Wars.
Because Kevin, Ryan and I challenge you to watch the Clone Wars.
No.
It's phenomenal, Kevin. It's phenomenal.
I hear it's good after season 2, so maybe I will end up enjoying it.
You can watch the machete version if you want. I can give it to you.
No, I'll wait. Oh, wait, maybe that actually, I probably should watch that in whatever order they recommend. Because it does break the timeline a little bit, right?
Yeah, the timeline's all over the place. There's a chronological order. I have like a machete order that has all the best arcs put together. That makes most sense. It gets with like the Jar Jar episodes and like the droid episodes.
Look, some of those are necessary. Like the droid episode, it's awful, but you still get you get the only clone commando in the entire damn series.
Fair.
All right, so how about this? Zach, you get the machete order. Ryan, you add in the episodes you think are important that are missing from that list, and then I'll watch it in that order.
That's fair.
Sounds good.
Cool. This has been another episode of Committed Critics. You can follow us on Twitter at Committed Chris, that's COMMITTED, CRITS. You can follow us on YouTube as well, Committed Critics, spelled the same there as it is here and everywhere else. You can support us on Patreon in the link below. And special thanks to our sound engineer, Jordan Smearman, for being awesome. And on that note, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
May the Force be with you.
I failed you. They challenged me to watch the Clone Wars, and now I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, young Padawan.
Don't call me that.
Do not worry. Here, I have something for you.
Is this...
Yes, your revenge.